All right, to wrap it, well, not to wrap it up, but for the second half of my project, I'm going to start off with the interview that we had with one of the vendors around the flamingo statue. He specialized in selling like African products that he imported himself, and he was very nice. His name was Mr. Mizizi. And since the audio isn't working, I'll play it from here.
How long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing this for the last 20 years.
Wow, and you come here in the same spot every Friday?
Not the same spot, but different spots,
Okay.
but not every week. We only do it once every month, 3 times.
Oh, okay. And sorry, go ahead.
Do you go to different locations as well?
Different locations.
Where else?
Like tomorrow I'll be going to Bronzeville area.
Okay.
There I'm here. Then the following week I'm at a different location.
Okay. And what would you say are the key differences between this location and the other ones?
One good thing in the downtown, you see, is the high population downtown.
Yeah.
So like weekdays, if you are doing a show downtown, that's the best time.
Yeah.
But weekends, in residential areas,
Uh-huh.
that's when you get people.
That's really
Yes.
cool. Are there specific peak times that people will come over here?
Summertime.
Summertime? Okay.
Starting from spring, nice spring,
Yeah.
through summer, that's when we do shows outside.
That's really cool. And where are these things from? Like
Kenya.
Kenya? Okay.
Kenya, some are from Kenya, Ghana, Senegal, from Africa.
Okay. And are people generally interested?
Oh yeah, people here, they are interested. That's why we come time
Yeah.
and time again.
Your customers, are they from different ethnic groups, from
Correct.
different countries?
Correct.
Yeah?
They are from different ethnic
What's the
groups.
majority of them?
The majority are blacks.
Black?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Ruben?
No, you can ask me. You asked all of them.
Okay.
That sounds so good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, speaking with him was actually a great experience. He was so nice, and to thank him for his time, of course, we bought a few things from his store. One of those things I bought was an African black soap that he was selling. I wanted to contribute to his business, but a lot of people like him actually come every week or every 2 weeks or so to come and sell their products in the Loop area, and they say that prime time is around now where the weather is nice and people are just walking around interested in what people have to sell. So it was really interesting getting to speak with him and interviewed him for a short amount of time. After leaving his store, we actually walked around State Street a little bit more, and we actually took notice of the amount of security cameras and surveillance taking place in each shop. And so it reminded me of the reading for Jacobs about eyes on the street and etc. I quoted, the bedrock attribute of a successful city district is that a person must feel personally safe and secure on the street among all these strangers, which is very true because State Street excels at this during the day since there's either police prevalence around, cameras on each building, or like heavy amounts of traffic both inside and outside of stores. So there's always the term of eyes on the street. There's always somebody watching something and everything's out in the open. So it's kind of difficult for crime to take place unless it's like a quick pickpocketing or something that cannot be seen or caught, perhaps. I say in the afternoon because I didn't have as many opportunities to visit the Loop area at night, so I have no idea if that term or feeling of safety is the same or even a little bit less. I know in terms of around Block 37, there's still a heavy amount of security and a lot of people walking around looking for bars and places to watch movies and stuff, so that in terms is very safe, but I'm not sure the farther along you walk towards Jackson how that safety continues. So we also noted, like, in Chicago, there are very few locations to sit and relax, especially in the Loop since it's so busy. There are just street walks and maybe you can sit at a bus stop, but that's waiting for the bus. There's no benches, there's no seats unless it's inside of a store, which you have to purchase something within that store to really be there. Parks are kind of inconveniently located, or they're kind of like this. This is right by Jackson and the Harold Washington train station. You can see there's trash everywhere. People loitering around the side kind of gives it an unsafe feeling. They usually ask you for money as well. We also noticed there's a cop car that was actually parked there with a cop sitting inside just surveilling the area. Also gives a sense that it's not a very safe location to be in. In terms of Chicago space, I noted under surveillance because this whole sign here was interesting. Area under surveillance, U.S. government property. It looks like it could have been a prime seating area with all these decorative decorations and lights. But it's actually a parking lot, but a very private parking lot. And we also noted some construction here. And it's located on State Street, and you can actually see the flamingo beyond this building here, so it's not too far. So the lack of space, I guess, is a lack of loitering because there's nowhere for anyone to sit, and Chicago has a high homeless population, so I guess this kind of counteracts the areas in which that they can loiter in. So to bring in the Italian influence, we noted that in their space where most of the shopping happens, there are a lot of sitting areas for public. And it's not necessarily for people who make purchases. So you can see there's a woman sitting here reading a book. There's a couple laying here just hanging out, people on their phones. Like, it's not necessarily people who are shopping, just they're allowed to sit and the stores are right in front of them. We actually had little to no mentioning of security from our Italian populars. We are partners, so we wondered perhaps there's less of a homeless population either in this area or in general. But we noted also that inside of the stores there are a lot more seating areas like bookstores or restaurants or even clothing stores than even ours. So we thought that was really interesting in terms of how they interpret safety and space. So my next sculpture that I focused on was the Monument Withstanding Beast. It's actually right outside the Thompson Center. It's probably been seen. It's very large. And I included some of the basic facts about it along with a movement that actually took place one of the days I was there. And this day was actually very cold and rainy. It was also a Friday. And this was a peaceful protest taking place in front called Falun Dafa. And I didn't record it, but there was really peaceful, like Zen music playing very loudly. Kind of sounded like meditation music, and these people in yellow were all doing like meditation movements, like circling their hands and doing like peaceful prayer. And I had a brief conversation with one of the organizing women, and she told me about what they did, gave me the website. And I also wanted to notice that the Thompson Center has a lot of the Illinois state government people, so there's a lot of security going on. There's cameras everywhere, especially since the shooting that took place there with the police commander. They've really heightened security since then. I just included a few packets about Falun Dafa, but for the sake of time, I'm going to skip a little bit over it. Just I had a brief history about it. I wanted to mention about the interactive sculptures that take place around Chicago. They're generally the same as the larger ones, except they come with tags that give you can scan your phone with the barcode or go online and they tell you everything about these statues in Chicago. So there's the bull, there's the Miro. They're very easy to interact with, and it'll tell you about the sculpture that you might not be able to tell just by looking at it. And also in terms of media, we noticed that people were usually using like Google Maps, Uber, Lyft, taking photos of things or listening to music as they walked or jogged, talking on the phone with someone. Of course, storefronts play popular music to draw in crowds, and bus stops had visually appealing ads for movies or brand names, like the Incredibles movie was being broadcasted constantly. In terms of media usage, usually when people have like free or dead times, like during a break or they're waiting for someone on the corner or waiting for the bus, they're usually on their phone or iPad. And immediate uses when they're walking somewhere, you're using your phone as navigation while you walk, you're talking on the phone, you're walking around taking pictures as a tourist. There's also the media offered by location. You can watch TV in your bars and restaurants, large display boards inside of the stores showing like what's on sale, what you can do. And for rhythm analysis, we said that stores control the flow of traffic, so people coming in and out of stores, the stores that are more popular have the biggest crowds. And State Street definitely has the heaviest amount of traffic because it has the heaviest amount of stores in a and all in one location. And the people who stop in the middle of the sidewalk or just don't move, they disrupt the flow. It's usually people going back and forth, but if there's someone going around, you have to curve around them. And as I mentioned before, college campuses, the college students populate the area, depending on the time. If it's lunchtime, college students are in Chipotle or Jimmy John's. And in the early morning, you notice people in their work and school uniforms. Afternoons, it's like the lunch rush with tourists and people from work. Evening, it's a lot less unless it's rush hour when people are coming home. But late night, it's usually the smaller traffic load, people, just couples or friends walking around the streets. And afternoons have the highest amount of tourists as well. And so I also included a video here. It's just so it's the rhythm of State Street going on. So you can see that it's just different people everywhere. There's a businessman with friends walking with bags. Just you can see here, these were people trying to gather the attention of people walking on the street for one of their businesses. A girl sitting there on her phone. There's a man walking, a woman walking and talking. This person's dancing. You have to walk around this person to keep going. It disrupts the flow a little bit. But we thought that was interesting in terms of rhythm analysis. And for the Garibaldi district, they included a map which really reminded me of like an outdoor mall, very similar to Oakbrook Mall if you're familiar with it, but it doesn't really give the same vibe as a loop. This appears more of like a campus feeling to it, and so they highlighted their green space and the public areas where you can walk along with the business areas around. And we kind of compared it to Chicago's Merchandise Mart, which is technically a little outside of the loop, but we considered it finance because it's comprised of a lot of different businesses, but it had an entirely different vibe than the loop actually, so it was a lot less populated. The buildings gave so many shadows, the whole area was just very dark. And really the only purpose is like eating and shopping for maybe furniture or like high class objects. There's no other attraction there except for maybe a few cafes. And it's mostly residential, a lot of driving space around here, but it really didn't feel like the city vibe as the loop area does. So we really commented on shadow because it kind of felt like walking in darkness there. And we wondered if the dark nature had something to do with its lack of activity or the types of stores that had to take place there. And the focus of businesses inside rather than outside led to it being kind of boring in terms of just hanging around Merchandise Mart. There's really nothing to do there. A few other things I wanted to comment on was gender advertisements, like it's usually women in makeup, clothing, jewelry. The men's were more like watches and maybe like shaving or sports, but also a lot of women were in sports as well. And the Italian partners, they commented something similar in terms of that. There's a lot of creepy men hanging around like the stations and above. In the afternoon, there's a lot of sounds in Chicago. You hear car horns, you hear music playing, you hear dozens of conversations, laughter, clattering, cups from homeless people. Italian students said not as much, mostly conversation. They also noted like a less amount of smells coming from their stores than rather than Chicago where you smell everything at once. In terms of weather, like warm weather right now, Chicago is prime time for activity. Chicago is releasing a bunch of events coming out where they focus more on money than more of the community. Like Italian festivals, they focus more on culture, art, bringing the community together. They have this plaza that basically everyone can gather around, and it's kind of like their shopping district. And I noted that the loop just doesn't have that. The whole loop is technically the square, and since we have so much diversity, it's very different than the Milan space here where they have everything kind of concentrated together. It's open construct, it's modern, it's clean. There's all these possibilities for events. There's respect of the space. I quoted from here that Italian spaces were allowed for great, nearly infinite flexibility. This was what happened to what became of the public square, excuse me. So they have public space. And in terms of our public space, like Chicago has a lot of underground performances. I noticed some street art that we took notice of. And so finally, to conclude, I wanted to just say Milan's development versus Chicago's historical. Milan has a lot of very modern, sleek architectural skyscrapers, restaurants. They respect their space. They have environmental friendly designs. They don't really have the outdoor smells like we do. There's no graffiti in the new area. It's really new, modern. It's coming up. It's developing constantly. But Chicago is known for its historic architecture and design, kind of something that we respect in terms of Lake Street Theater. We have an older feeling to it, as I compared these two pictures together. I think it was very interesting learning from them the modern versus historic. We have so many things to learn from each other, and it was actually a great experience getting to know like how the Italian space really compares to Chicago's authenticity. And I actually really enjoyed doing this project, and I learned a lot from it. So thank you so much for listening. Thanks for your time.